Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samaniego here, along with Adam Lemeries and Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Encourage everyone to participate in the chat room, and we want to give a big special congratulations to our colleague Jessica from Paddock Inside. Newlywed, congratulations to you, Jessica, and your husband. We're all very excited for you. And of course, to all our Ultimate Sports Radio Network listeners, welcome. Definitely thank you for tuning in to our program. We have a lot to cover, including Formula E in the Big Apple, SRX racing. Can a 17-year-old pull the biggest upset ever in that series? And, of course, NASCAR. And that's where we start off with NASCAR at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
That's right. The NASCAR Cup Series visiting Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend. It's been a while since Atlanta has hosted two Cup races in the same year, and the last time was 2010. Kyle Busch not long ago questioned if Atlanta Motor Speedway really needs to have two race days, and this is the home for NASCAR's defending Cup Series champion and most popular driver, Chase Elliott. Does Kyle Busch have a legitimate case when questioning if we should race at Atlanta twice per year?
For me, I have to say Atlanta should have at least two Cup Series races on the NASCAR calendar. It has been like that for a very long time, going back to the 90s when the first race was in March, and that they actually ended the year at Atlanta. It's a really good track. I can say that I have gone there a couple times. I've always enjoyed all the action, and I'm hoping in the future that Atlanta Motor Speedway does have two NASCAR Cup Series races on the schedule.
When it comes to Atlanta Motor Speedway, I remember when it did host two races a year early in the season, and then, of course, the season finale. Then it changed to later in the season, and then it seems like after that repave is when it suddenly became more and more less crowds. And then, of course, we all know what happened with the recession, and now it's down to one race a year. With Atlanta Motor Speedway hosting two events a year, of course, this is part of SMI. Kentucky is no longer on the schedule. The Quaker State 400 was there at Kentucky. Now it's here in Atlanta Motor Speedway. For the fans, especially Chase Elliott fans, it's his home state, home race. I feel you have to look at two races a year. And it's not just in NASCAR. We've seen how other series, if you have a very popular driver, you would want a race at their home country or hometown. A very good example in the old kart FedEx series, when Andrea Fernandez was very competitive, they had races in Mexico, two races a year in Mexico, Monterrey and Mexico City, huge crowds. We're seeing Formula One, they're going to the Netherlands. Of course, Max Verstappen's, the Dutch Grand Prix, that's going to be a huge crowd there. So it doesn't hurt for NASCAR to look into, hey, Chase Elliott, he's really popular. His popularity, defending champion, that could bring extra crowds. So I do think there's a balance of it's a good racetrack, and also, will the fans show up? And I think if the fans really show up, we're out of a pandemic. If that place is sold out, everyone's going to be talking about Atlanta having two races a year.
Yes, people are going to be talking about Atlanta, and there was actually a lot of talk this week about Atlanta Motor Speedway, and one factor has some drivers not looking forward to returning to this racetrack next year because of the inevitable repave. Plus, the big news Adam and I talked about on Grid tonight, the reconfiguration of the speedway, and some are calling it a mini super speedway. Atlanta Motor Speedway going from 24 to 28 degrees of banking in the turns, including a more narrow racing surface. Joe, Adam and I had a lot to say about this subject, and we're going to give you a chance to respond. Do you think this is the right idea for Atlanta to have 28 degrees of banking? I mean, it really did look like a mini super speedway in the iRacing video we showed our viewers.
It appears it's going to be a mini super speedway. The big question, of course, is what's going to happen with these next-gen cars and what kind of setup are they going to have next year? Are we going to have high horsepower where, again, they're going to have to let off the gas? Because one of the big things, when they're off that throttle, that's where you see the field get spread out. It's going to be a narrower track, so they're going to be closer side by side. When it comes to Atlanta overall, I feel like this is going to be a really interesting, because essentially it's a track that had three phases. the first phase before the 1997 reconfiguration. It was very much known for a physical track. Those long corners, the straightaways, no tri-oval was really challenging on the drivers, especially on their necks. Then we had the reconfiguration, similar to Charlotte, Texas, some really entertaining finishes, and it became a real driver's racetrack. That's part of the main reason why we didn't see the repay for the longest time. Now with this new configuration, it's going to be really interesting to see. I think with those high bankings and high speeds, it's going to be a little bit of what we saw with the old Atlanta, where the physical demands on the drivers going to be really huge, especially if they have a high horsepower package. However, when it comes to the package itself, I think that's going to be a huge determination in how that race turns out. And we do have one comment in the chat room, Alyssa saying, yes, we love Atlanta. So definitely people showing their love for Landmore Speedway, hosting 2 races or more.
And next year it's going to be interesting to see if people are still going to be saying they love Atlanta because I know with NASCAR running the package on those tracks with the lower horsepower, high downforce, that's not really popular. With the fan base and with NASCAR going to 28 degrees of banking, a more narrow surface for them to be close together, it really seems like they're trying to make Atlanta to play into this package's wheelhouse. And like you said, we don't really know what to expect yet with the setups concerning the next gen car. And it's gonna be really interesting to see how they race next year with the brand new Atlanta Motor Speedway, and essentially it'll be like a brand new racetrack next year. Not the same Atlanta Speedway we've grown accustomed to, but a new track added to the schedule this year was Knoxville Raceway in Iowa, which hosted the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race last night. Knoxville joins Bristol Dirt as the second dirt race to take place outside of Eldora Speedway. It took multiple overtimes, but Austin hit checker flag right before midnight last night after the race got underway right after 9 p.m. Eastern time. Lots of caution in that race, 14 of them uh, multi-truck wrecks, and many opinions shared, including from the defending NASCAR Camping World Truck Series champion Sheldon Creed, who said that they didn't belong at Knoxville Raceway. He believed they needed to go back up the road to Iowa Speedway where they used to race. After the dust at Bristol Dirt, moving away from Eldora, it really seems like more people are critical about NASCAR's future racing on dirt. Adam, do you believe that it's fair criticism, or do you think people are harshly overreacting to what we saw last night?
Well, for me, I enjoyed NASCAR racing on dirt because that's how the series originally got started. I sort of agree with what Sheldon Creed had to say last night, and I can remember when this. Hopefully, down the road, NASCAR can go back to more short tracks, like the series originally started. Places like Lucas Oil Raceway, better known as IRP, Louisville Motor Speedway in Kentucky, Mason Marin Raceway in Bakersfield, California. Unfortunately, that track is no longer in existence, and several short tracks in the Northwest. I hope down the road that NASCAR goes back to some of these legendary short tracks in the Truck Series. It'd be really cool for the fans to see. And a couple of tracks that I'd like to see back on the schedule are South Boston Speedway in Virginia, where Elliott and Hermie Sadler got their NASCAR careers going. Nashville Fairground Speedway, where Sterling Marlin, his father Cuckoo, and Darrell Waltrip got their starts. It's a really good track. I know the Xfinity Series has raced there before, and I know. So hopefully down the road, NASCAR can go back to some of these legendary short tracks and put on a really, really good show for the fans.
And I'm actually not gonna go as far as some people did last night in saying that NASCAR should never race on dirt ever again after tonight. And we also have to consider this is NASCAR's first race at Knoxville Raceway. I always like to give people a second chance to give them time to correct what went wrong. Just like I've been consistent with this view, going back to our shows on Bristol Dirt. Yes, Bristol Dirt. The Cup race didn't exactly go the best with all the dust and all of that. It was a complete mess. But I remember saying it then. I'll say it now. NASCAR deserves an opportunity to fix what went wrong, and next year try to put on a better show at Bristol Dirt since they are going back. And if NASCAR returns to Knoxville next year, I think they should be given an opportunity to fix what went wrong. And if it goes wrong for a second time and it seems like they learned nothing, then I'll say maybe it's time to never go back there again. And some of the things that people have mentioned, don't blame the racetrack. It's not the track's fault. One of the things that people have said, maybe NASCAR should consider doing what SRX did when they raced on the dirt at Eldora and Knoxville, which is remove the windshields so they can prepare the track properly to put on a really solid dirt race, and so you don't have to worry about the dust or mud clogging up the driver's windshield like we saw in those heat races for the NASCAR Capital Truck Series earlier. Well, that one heat race before it eventually got rained out, it was just a real muddy mess. I remember looking at Tyler Ankram's windshield. It was like really crazy, and if they removed the windshields, that would not be a problem. And it just like any type of dirt race that we see on a Saturday night, if your vision gets caught, you can just pull off, you can just get that tear off, and then you can just keep racing. I think that's something that NASCAR should definitely look into with future dirt races, and also improve the officiating when it comes to that. Last night we saw a lot of inconsistency with that, and also I guess you just have to blame the drivers as well for what went wrong last night, because we saw a lot of moves where I believe some drivers really went in over their head, and so I don't think it's fair to blame and say that Knoxville Raceway is not a good racetrack because it's home of the Knoxville National, the sprint car capital of the world. Knoxville has put on some of the most entertaining sprint car races that we've ever seen. And overall, I just think that we need to take what went wrong last night and see what we can do to improve moving forward. And back to Atlanta Motor Speedway, some drivers find themselves trying to overcome a tough season with 6 races remaining in the regular season. And one team that's been really quiet lately is Team Penske. Ryan Blaney did win the Atlanta race here in the spring. Can Team Penske return to victory lane on Sunday?
I think Penske could return to victory lane Sunday. I don't see it happening in a dominating fashion. I see it more happening similar to Ryan Blaney's win, where Kyle Larson had led a lot of laps, but late cautions, a shuffle in strategy from pit stops, and next thing you know, Ryan Blaney was in a good position with a good restart to take that win. I anticipate that to happen because I really do feel since that Atlanta race, we're talking about the big three. Penske, they were one of the first teams to get multiple wins from different drivers. Then here comes Gibbs, Hendricks. Hendricks have been clearly the number one team. Gibbs is right there, and Penske started that third place team. I see them continuing that role as sort of the third place team. Their biggest chance of getting the win is a late caution, a strategy, and good handling cars because they got to stay on the lead lap.
I agree with you, Joe. I'm hoping that Ryan Blaney can actually sweep Atlanta because his paint scheme should remind fans of when Rusty Wallace was competing and he had a car named Midnight. So maybe Ryan Blaney can channel some of that old Rusty Wallace Midnight magic and sweep Atlanta. I know, and it should be a really competitive race tomorrow, and I believe you will see Team Penske competing for the win.
Yeah, I do think that we'll see a competitive Team Penske at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I don't know if Ryan Blaney will get the sweep, but I certainly think that Team Penske will perform much better in this race than we've seen lately, and also it's gonna be interesting to see. Chase Elliott won at Road America last week. We talked about after their winning streak ended as a team, could Hendrick Motorsports get on another roll? And one thing I'm going to be watching this weekend is are we gonna see Hendrick Motorsports get on that same roll that we've seen in recent weeks? With Kyle Larson went on all those races, Alex Bowman taking that first race at Pocono, and then the streak in, and then Chase Elliott coming back win at Road America. We're gonna see Hendrick Motorsports keep the good times rolling, and that's certainly one thing that I'm going to be looking out for. And speaking of all things rolling, the Supercars had quite a race last night in Townsville.
Quite a race for the Repco Supercar Series last night. for the East Coast and West Coast, but definitely was worth staying up late, especially during the East Coast. It ran in a little bit into the early mornings of the day, but definitely we saw some great racing. Jamie Whincup started on the front row, not the pole. Of course, that went to his teammate Shane Van Gisbergen. But Jamie Whincup, great start, took the lead entering turn one. Very aggressive racing all around. Shane Van Gisbergen, again, using strategy and great tire management, regains the lead late in the race over Jamie Whincup. It was just really fascinating as everybody was losing time because of tire degradation. Shane Van Gisbergen, his tire management, he was gaining time. Shane gets his ninth win of the season, triple eight Red Bull 1-2 finish, dominating the race. Adam, for race two, do you anticipate Whincup to change up strategy to try to compete against his teammate?
I'm going to have to say yes, because I actually, out of everyone on the show, out of everyone associated with the show, everybody picked SVG to win except one person, me, and I sort of regret it. So I believe that Jamie Whincup's strategy will change slightly. But right now, it's hard to beat his teammate SVG. He has had 9 wins this season, has 16 races. Could he overtake Salt McLaughlin for most wins in a season this year? I'm going to have to say yes, because right now SVG is on another planet. He is looking really good heading in to race 2 and their summer break. So SVG is on top of the supercars world, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I don't see that anytime soon changing as well. Definitely in the chat room, I know people are talking about it. We see from our Twitch little gifts. I think somebody trying to give you a little bit of luck for pick a winner, Adam. But definitely the rest of the field, they're going to need more than luck, more than a gift. They need to really step it up. I was just really shocked. Shane Van Gisbergen, this wasn't a race where he just flat out led every single lap. He was second place. He was running up there towards the front, but he just seems to be in a league of his own. You bring up a wonderful point about him, Scott McLaughlin's win record. At this pace, we still have 12 races remaining. He could easily smash that record. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And of course, no driver, when it comes to the points, is within striking distance of Shane. Pretty much 300 points a race weekend. So this weekend, 150 points per race weekend. So there's no way possible for Jamie Whincup to really mount much of a challenge with that. And of course, even into the following race weekend at Sydney Super Sprints in August, a summer break for the Supercar Series. A lot of series from Formula One, even NASCAR taking a summer break during the Olympics. And for the Supercar Series, this might be a great opportunity for all the teams. Try to recapture something, regroup, bring the challenge to Triple Eight. Adam, Kobe, do you see this where this is going to be a great opportunity for the teams to regroup and build? Or will this allow Shane and Triple Eight Racing to just go one step ahead of everybody?
To be honest, Joe, I have to say, I think Shane Van Gisbergen and Triple Eight, that they're just going to move further ahead of the competition. I really don't see anything stopping them right now. And I know they went on, I think it was like 6-race drought where Shane Van Gisbergen didn't win a race because at the beginning of the season, he was winning everything. And I was thinking, wow, he's going to win every single race this season. And then his form kind of dropped a little bit, but he's still in like Scott Dixon type manner managed to salvage some really good points, although he didn't win those races. And then Shane, the win streak started again, and it seems like they're absolutely having a wonderful time right now down under, winning all of those races, extending the championship points lead. And right now, I don't really see any other team that can really challenge him outside of his teammate Jamie Whincup.
I have to agree with you, Kobe. And I like this summer break for the supercars because it'll give them time to regroup, rechallenge their batteries, and get ready for the rest of the season. There's a lot of really good races still ahead with the Supercar Series. You actually have 2 races that are going to appear at night down under. Yes, the supercars are going to be racing under the lights. You have the Bathurst 1000, which is the premier race in the supercars, plus have the action from the Gold Coast. So I really like the summer break. But right now, regarding SVG, he's on another world. He's on another planet, and all the rest of the teams, including his teammate Jamie Whincup, they better find something to get a lot of momentum, because SVG could run away with the Repco Supercars Championship.
And one championship he could potentially run away with is the grid ranking. Looking at the standings so far during this weekend, of course, Sebastian Ogier is not racing, but you can see Shane Van Gisbergen is within 1 point now of reclaiming that lead. He has led most of the season. Of course, Shane Van Gisbergen, Kyle Larson, they're both highlighted in yellow. They still have races in the weekend. Pato O'Rourke and Thierry Neuville both are up in the top 10 after Chaz Mostert finished 14th in that race, falling out of the top 10. Now, the big thing, of course, with the grid ranking, it looks at drivers and how dominant they are in their respective series. When it comes to Shane Van Gisbergen and what he's doing in the Supercar Series, is Shane just stepping up and he is that dominant? Or is this a result of Penske McLaughlin departure and nobody's up to that same level as Shane and Triple Eight Racing?
I believe with Scott McLaughlin, I believe since Scott McLaughlin has left the series and got on to IndyCars, I don't see any other than his teammate Jamie Whincup. It's going to be hard to knock SVG out the Supercars podium. He is on another, like I just said, he's on another world, another planet, and there's so many other good drivers in the Supercar Series. You look at Chaz Mostert, Will Davison, Cameron Waters, SVG. I mean, he is. You could put him in the same picture as Scott McLaughlin when he dominated in the series. Right now, I don't see anybody. Maybe his teammate Jamie Whincup down the road. But right now, I don't see anybody knocking off SVG for the Supercar Championship. It's his championship to lose.
And it's really interesting how you change your stance there, Adam, because you were saying at first, I think it might have been several weeks ago, that you thought Jamie Whincup would be able to get around Shane Van Gisbergen for the championship, but after the recent form, it seems like you're starting to feel less confident about that and think that Shane Van Gisbergen does have the upper hand after all. And to answer the question that you asked, Joe, I think it's a mix of everything you said, that Shane Van Gisbergen is just so dominant right now. Triple Eight, clicking on all cylinders. The departure, Team Penske, Scott McLaughlin, I think that has a huge role in that because of Dick Johnson Racing Team, the Shell Power organization. I think they're in the process of rebuilding that organization right now. And no offense to Will Davison or Antoine De Pasquale, but they're no Scott McLaughlin. All Scott McLaughlin was a once in a generation talent in supercars, and it's really hard for those two drivers to meet those same expectations. So I definitely think that is going to be some growing pains moving forward for the Shell Power organization as they try to rebuild that organization back to being a championship winning team, that which we saw Scott McLaughlin go on an absolute tear in recent years. And I don't really see anybody up to the challenge of taking the fight, Gisbergen or Triple Eight right now.
They bring up a lot of good points when it's looking at the grid ranking right now. Chaz Mostert is 11th. Jamie Whincup 13th, Cameron Waters 16th, and Will Davison back in 28th. So definitely what we're seeing Shane Van Gisbergen doing, he is just excelling everybody when it comes to race domination, performance. And yesterday I think was really proof of how he is on, as you said, Adam, another planet. As everyone was losing speed because of the tire degradation, he's catching up on everybody. He's improving it. It's going to be really hard to beat him in one more race for the Supercar Series. And of course, we'll share our pick winners, and we encourage everyone in the chat room to start sharing their picks for pick a winner next. The hardest series I think we're going to have when it comes to pick a winner, that's going to be Formula E. Without doubt, one of the hardest series to pick a winner at.
Oh yeah, Formula E is very difficult to pick a winner at. I don't think I've ever gotten a Formula E pick correct, to be honest with you, because it is just so freaking difficult to get this one right. And the ABBFA Formula E World Championship is in the Big Apple this weekend, New York City, for a doubleheader race weekend. One race today on Saturday and one race tomorrow, Sunday. And after New York City, we only have 4 races remaining in the season: a doubleheader in London and then a doubleheader in Berlin. Eduardo Mortar in the Venturi currently leads the championship. Did you ever think we would be saying Eduardo Mortar at a championship points leader with 4 races to go?
Nope. I didn't expect it. I thought it'd be Antonio Felix da Costa doing what he did last year and win the championship. I'm really happy to see Eduardo Montara on top. But there's so many other good drivers that have a shot to win. You look at people like Sam Bird, Nick DeFries, Robin Friends, and so many others that this championship could go right down to the last race in Berlin. But overall, I didn't expect to see Eduardo Montara on top of the championship right now. And I will say it's pretty cool to see Formula E racing in New York City here in the United States.
Not only here in the United States, it'll be on broadcast television Sunday on the CBS network. I believe that is the first time Formula E will be on broadcast television. Very exciting for them. When it comes to Edward Montara leading the championship with 4 races left, no way did I saw this. Earlier in the season, we were talking about Mercedes, Stoffel Van Dorn, Nick DeFries. Could they dominate Formula E like what we see Mercedes done in Formula 1? We saw Jaguar, so then we started talking about Jaguar versus Mercedes, and Robert Friends is up there due to consistency. Now, we have DeFries 6 in the points. Stoffel Van Dorn, Sam Bird, they're further back in the points. Mitch Evans, he's still in the top 6. Robert Friends, he's continuing his consistency. He's still there. Hasn't won a race yet. Montara, all of a sudden, he's up there after a win, a podium, and he's been pretty consistent. So, huge surprise, especially for that Venturi team. Got to give them a lot of credit. They're one of the smaller, less funded teams, and here they are leading the championship. This has to be a really huge opportunity for them, and I think they have to really step up and realize, hey, we're the underdogs, but we could do this, and we can make it happen.
Yeah, they can definitely make it happen. And speaking of all things happening, qualifying is scheduled to start only moments from now at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, so just 2 minutes away. And it's really hard to, like you said, Joe, about pick a winner. It's going to be so hard to pick a winner for this race. We're not knowing the qualifying results in time and not knowing who's going to be good at this track. So definitely up in there. I think for race 1 today, I already picked Antonio Felix da Costa. Going to be doing race 2 today. But when I was looking at the practice times, I didn't see Antonio Felix da Costa up there in the top 10 in both practice sessions. So we'll definitely have to see how my race 1 pick a winner is going to do. And we're talking about Eduardo Mortara along with Robin Fries, Antonio Felix da Costa, Renee Rast, Mitch Evans, and Nick DeFries. They're going to be in Group 1 coming up shortly. Qualifying first. A lot of people say in Formula E that this is the biggest disadvantage. And Robin Fries was fastest in opening practice earlier today. Is the group qualifying format for Formula E too much of a factor in the race weekend? Do you think we should see some changes?
I don't know if we should see some changes. What it is definitely a factor of is when we have group qualifying and this is the first group out, this really, I feel, makes it where between Group 1 through Group 3, the parity is right there. We've seen where Robert Friends, sometimes Mitch Evans could still get a top 10 spot. We still see Antonio Felix da Costa, he could get a top 10 spot. But what we are also seeing is the teams that are essentially 7th up to 14th, they have an opportunity at being that top 10. It is very tricky to win a Formula E race from the back pack. They're street cars, they're narrow, and the racing is very aggressive. We don't have pit stops, we have attack mode. That's the way we do try to see drivers use strategy and instead of fresher tires, more battery power to get going. So I don't see it too much as an overpowering issue when it comes to the race weekend. But what it does is bring that competition from first to between 14th to 21st much closer together because you don't see somebody last in the standings take the pole yet, and green flag underway for Group 1 qualifying.
For me, I like the group qualifying format. I think it's really cool. I know a lot of other motorsport series do that on a road when they go to a road course or a street course. With the championship being so tight at the moment, I believe you're going to have at least a top 10 starting position in order to at least have a chance to win, because there's so many really good drivers that have a shot to claim the Formula E championship. And I believe, like I just said, I actually think it could go down to the last race in Berlin. The talent this year is really good, and overall, with group qualifying, I believe you're talking about the drivers they're going to be in Group 1. Those are some of the heavyweights. So right now, I believe that all those drivers will hopefully be starting in the top 10 and should be a really good race for the fans in New York City.
And the last time a driver won a Formula E race from outside the top 10, it happened here in New York City with Lucas Di Grassi in 2017. Only 2 races have been won outside the top 10 in the entire history of Formula E. And once again, Lucas Di Grassi, Sebastian Buemi, the other past champion, was fastest in practice 2. With 6 races remaining, counting today and tomorrow's race, every driver is still mathematically eligible for the championship. Realistically speaking, how many drivers do you see are capable of contending for the championship, and name them?
For me, I believe the drivers who could contend for the championship are defending series champion Antonio Felix da Costa, Nick DeFries, Sam Bird, Eduardo Montara, Robin Friends, and I know there's at least a couple more that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but I believe you have 6 or 7 drivers right now that could walk away with the FIA Formula E World Championship.
When it comes to the Formula E World Championship, I think you just named a lot of names that I was going to say as well. Montara, Fringe, keeping that consistency. Da Costa, which Da Costa just now hit the track, so he was having some issues. He didn't get on the track, but he is now on the track of Group 1 qualifying. Mitch Evans, I feel he really just seems to be missing something when it comes to overall getting that championship win. But the big thing is those names, as you mentioned, Montara, and I wouldn't count out Rene Rast. He's surprisingly 4th right now in group qualifying, and he is in the top 6 in points in that Audi. Maybe he could put together a shocking run of consistency, and we see more craziness formally. I would not be surprised to see him up there.
Yes, and looking at the top 6 in the standings, those are the drivers that I think could really be in contention for the championship, with Nick DeFries, number 8, and Mitch Evans, Rene Rast, the defending series champion Antonio Felix da Costa, Robin Franz, and Eduardo Mortar. I definitely think the championship is going to come from the top 6, but anything is possible. And in Formula E, you got so many, like you said, everyone's still mathematically eligible for the championship, but if I had to make a prediction, I think it's definitely going to be coming from this top 6. But Formula E is so unpredictable; we can really see anything happen in Exton, New York City. We could certainly see the championship shake up even more. And Joe, what's going on in group qualifying right now?
Right now, group qualifying, Group 1 is out on the track, and right now we see Robin Fringe first, Da Costa, Evans, Nick DeVries, Rene Rast, and Montara 6. Montara essentially 1.627 seconds behind Fringe. So definitely it looks like it's not a good start for Edward Montara and that Venturi team. And Fringe on the pole currently with a lap time of 1:10.063. Qualifying for Group 2 is now underway.
And at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific, the New York City E-Prix Race 1 will take place on the CBS Sports Network. And tomorrow, Race 2 on national television, CBS. That's big CBS. A bit earlier in the day at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also on CBS later tonight, the Camping World SRX Series racing at Slinger Speedway. Ernie Francis Jr. coming off a big win at Lucas Oil Raceway, formerly known as IRP. Tony Stewart enters Slinger with a 30-point lead in the championship with 2 races to go over Ernie Francis Jr. And only the top 7 in points are still mathematically eligible for the championship, followed by Helio Castroneves, Bobby Labonte, Marco Andretti, Michael Waltrip, and Paul Tracy. Do you see any of the drivers 3rd through 7th winning tonight's feature?
When it comes to tonight's feature at Slinger Speedway, I really see Bobby Labonte, maybe Michael Waltrip, as being able to get that win from Tony Stewart or Ernie Francis Jr. Their experience in the high banks, high speed corners of ovals. This is a short track, but it's still high speed, high banking. I see them having their strengths really showing tonight. Helio Castroneves, Marco Andretti, Paul Tracy, I think it's tonight when their championship contention ends.
For me, I've got to agree with you, Joe. I mean, Bobby Labonte and Michael Waltrip have had a lot of success in NASCAR when it comes to racing on the short tracks because they race at some of the most legendary short tracks across the country. And those 2 drivers are going to be hard to beat tonight. And I'll have to say that possibility you could see someone like maybe Marco Andretti or Paul Tracy steal a win here at Slinger Speedway. It should be an incredible race to watch tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing how all the action goes.
Yeah, so one thing that really surprised me last Saturday night at Lucas Oil Speedway was Tony Stewart. I thought Tony Stewart was going to just run away with this championship. I think a lot of people did as well. But Tony Stewart struggled in the feature last week, and that really surprised me because I thought, this is Tony's series. Him and Ray Abraham designed this SRX car, so I thought that Tony would definitely go out there and win last week easily with no real challenger. But then Tony goes out there and he's quiet all night long, and he was never in contention. And it's gonna be interesting to watch tonight. Are we gonna see Tony Stewart return to the same form we saw at those 2 dirt races at Eldora and Knoxville, or are we gonna see more struggles from Tony Stewart tonight, potentially allowing Ernie Francis Jr., Helio Castroneves to get closer in the championship? And answer the question, I do think we could see some of those drivers we mentioned in the top 7 in points contend for the win, especially if Tony Stewart isn't on his A game. And apparently we have a comment from a viewer about SRX from Hunter Dink said, "Do you think Helio Castroneves will do well?" I think he's proven he can do well everywhere. Yes, Helio Castroneves has done well so far in SRX. I think a lot of the open wheel guys have really surprised us, running more well on asphalt than the pavement in these SRX cars. And really, thank you for that comment, Hunter Dean. We encourage all of our viewers to ask us questions and comment. We'll display them on the screen as you've seen. And Slinger Speedway, you mentioned, very fast track. So handling and keeping up the momentum will be really key in tonight's 150-lap feature race. Is there any driver in particular that you think could stand out tonight, or could we possibly see the local 17-year-old kid, Luke Fenhouse, the 2021 Slinger Nationals winner earlier this week, go to victory lane in the SRX race?
Well, I think overall, it's really cool to see someone. It's really cool to see someone like Luke competing against with some of the biggest names in motorsports right now. Overall, I believe, to me, it'll either be someone that has a lot of NASCAR experience on the short tracks, has a really good shot to win. I won't reveal my pick winner just yet. I will say it's someone that we all know who's raced in NASCAR, so it should be very exciting to see how everything developed at Slinger Speedway later on tonight.
When it comes to Slinger Speedway, the NASCAR drivers, they stick out the banking, the high speeds of the corners. However, Castro Neves, as Humperdinck said, of course, he's done not only IndyCars, but of course, some of the big IndyCar races like the old Michigan 500 IndyCar era. He's also done, of course, Michigan, California Speedway. So definitely a great point from Humperdinck. I do think Kelly could be up there, but I'm definitely going to be watching the 17-year-old Luke. Definitely, he's shown he could win at that track. He has the most recent experience there. I don't see why we can't see him do what Doug Coby did in the first race of the year.
And I really hate to admit this, but before winning the Slinger National, I've never heard of Luke before. And I think that's one of the good things about SRX, and some of the early criticism SRX got was taking place on the same night where on Saturday nights, the same time when a lot of local short track races are happening all around the country. When Doug Coby had to miss a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race just to be an SRX because he felt like that it was more important for him to be seen on national TV to represent short track racers everywhere, all around the country, and and I think having with the Slinger Nationals being in the middle of the week, and then Tony Stewart and Ray Abraham reserving a ride for the Slinger Nationals winner to go to SRX, I think that works out pretty well. And if SRX continues into the future, based on some recent commentary ever had, seems like that we're going to have a season 2 of SRX, and I think winning some of these big races around these like big lake model races around the country and reserving a spot for the winner SRX will be really cool. Let's say, for example, if SRX goes to Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola next year. Imagine if they say the winner of the Snowball Derby gets an automatic bid into the SRX race. I think that would be a really good idea because you're giving back to the local short track community by inviting one of their drivers to come and race. And overall, I think everybody wins in this situation, especially for Luke Fenhaus.
Now it's time for everybody's favorite portion of the show. Pick a winner. And as we take a look at the graphics on the screen, Joe is first with 19 wins, followed by Matt, Coby, myself, and Ben. So we're going to start with the Formula E Race 2 from New York City. For me, I'm going to have to go with Nick DeFries. I believe that he'll get a good starting position in the race and claim the checkered flag. Coby, you're up.
In race 1 earlier in the week, I picked Antonio Felix da Costa. I don't know how I feel about it now. Unfortunately, he can't change that pick. But race 2, I was looking at the practice sheets, and I'm gonna pick someone who ran some real consistent lap times in practice. I'm going with Pascal Wehrlein.
When it comes to race 2, considering how crazy it is, I'm gonna go with Stoffel Van Dorn. I see him getting that win because right now he is not in Group 1. That seems to be the big disadvantage. I don't believe I shared my pick winner for race 1. For that, I'm probably going to go with Mitch Evans.
All right, now it's time that we shift gears and head to NASCAR for the Cup race in Atlanta. And for me, I'm going to go with the home state winner. Yes, I'm picking the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Chase Elliott, to do it in front of his home state fans at Atlanta Motor Speedway tomorrow afternoon.
You're going with the Hendrick driver there, and I'm gonna go with another Hendrick driver. I think it's gonna be a driver who's been strong lately, but hasn't been able to seal the deal. I think it's gonna be the driver to number 24 Chevrolet, William Byron, going to victory lane at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
I guess we're all going with Hendrick drivers. I'm going with the number 5, Kyle Larson, to get this win.
Now it's time we go down under to Australia, and we pick race 2 of the Repco Supercars Series. And I'm going to go with the driver that everybody picked except me, and I regret this. And yes, I'm going to go with SVG, James Gisbergen, getting it done in race 2. Coby, you're up.
Same. Shane Van Gisbergen sweeping the weekend, and I have a feeling that Joe's is going to make it unanimous.
Yeah, it's going to be unanimous. Shane's just so strong. I mean, the only way he won't win is if he has another pit stop error or something goes mechanically wrong or a disaster of a start and gets caught up in trouble.
Now it's time that we end this with the SRX race at Slinger Speedway in Minnesota. Now I'm going to go with a former NASCAR driver that has had a lot of success in the short tracks. I'm going with Michael Waltrip. Yes, Mikey, to claim the victory tonight. Kobe, you're up.
Oh, it'll definitely be a big party if Mikey goes to the victory lane at Slinger. But I'm going to go with a driver who was really coming on well late towards the end of last week's SRX race. I'm going to go with Bobby Labonte to win at Slinger.
When it comes to SRX, I think we're going to see another surprise winner. I know I picked Doug Kobe. I'm going to go with the 17-year-old. I think Luke is going to shock the world, just like what Doug Kobe did. Get that win, and we're going to be talking about a huge story tomorrow on Grid Live. Wrap up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race. So we encourage everyone to be sure to subscribe to us right here on YouTube. We know we have some followers on Twitch. Thank you so much. And to our new subscriber from this morning, thank you for subscribing. Another qualifying update from Formula E. Most of the runners from Group 1 are still in the top 6. Fringe, DaCosta, Evans, DeVries, Ras, and Martora. So we saw essentially a lot of the drivers from qualifying Group 2 have slower times. So maybe, just maybe, the track might not be getting better throughout the day. One of the things that is getting better throughout the day is our growing list of Patreon subscribers and investors. Colin and Mark the show. Thank you so much for always investing in the Grid Network, believing in everything we're doing. And of course, we invite everyone to subscribe to our Patreon page. We got a couple plans there. Definitely, we're transparent with how we use your money, your investment, and we invite you to click on the link in the video description. And also check out Publis, 10% discount for all Grid Network viewers. Just click on that link. You get a 10% discount for being a viewer, and a portion of your sales goes to helping homeless, sick, and rescue dogs, just like our rescue dog, Kiska, our Grid office dog. So definitely encourage everyone to check out all those links. And thank you for watching today's Grid Live program. Grid Live wrap up tomorrow. And then, of course, we start a new week of Grid Tonight, Women Racing to Win, and we do it all over again. For Adam Lemery's our supercar expert, Kobe Lambs from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching and enjoy the races. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.